Hey, it's Les from the TV Dudes. This week, I'm thrilled to chat with actors Dan Lauria and Patty McCormack about the off-Broadway premiere of their play Just Another Day, about wonderful old friends who may not even know each other, but who relive and celebrate a life together. In Just Another Day, a comedy writer and a sophisticated poet in their 70s meet daily on a park bench to exchange wits and barbs and wax nostalgic about old movies, all the while trying to figure out how they know and love each other, at least for that day. Directed by Eric Krebs, the two-member cast is Dan Lauria, who also wrote the show, alongside Patty McCormack. Between them, Lauria and McCormack have over 100 years of live theatrical experience, as well as over 150 television show and film credits. Dan has appeared as a guest star in over 70 television episodic programs and more than 20 Movie of the Week productions, plus a score of motion picture credits. Dan is a very familiar face to the off, and regional theater scene, having performed, written, or directed over 50 professional stage productions. Dan is most recognized as the dad on the highly acclaimed, Emmy-winning ABC television show, The Wonder Years. Patty McCormack brings to her role more than 7 decades of stage, screen, and television appearances. You may know her from her Oscar and Golden Globe nominated performance in The Bad Seed, or from her work in the Oscar and Golden Globe nominated Frost Nixon, or maybe you saw her in The Master, or starring in her own television series Peck's Batgirl. She also created memorable television favorites on Dallas and The Sopranos, and has done extensive theatrical work, beginning with a Broadway debut at the age of 6 in Touchstone, starring Ossie Davis. Patty McCormack brings her diverse range of talent to every role she plays. We talk about writing, acting, Dan and Patty's connection to live theater, and much more. If you're in the New York area and want to catch the show, and you should, tickets are available in the description link. It's a great interview, and I hope you enjoy. Well, thank you so much for making time. I know you've got a show tonight, so we'll get right to it. Just do the good parts.
Okay.
Thank you both for making time. I'm really excited to get to talk to you both because the play sounds amazing, and I'm excited to talk to you both about both performing it and Dan, what it was like to write it, let go of that role, rejoin this collaborative process as an actor in it. Can you talk to me a little bit about where the show came from?
Well, it was an idea I've been working on, but like I tell everyone, I'm not a writer who acts, I'm an actor who writes, and it's a big difference. So even though I wrote it in like 1 week, it was 2 years before we got to the draft we are now. And a lot of that has to do with what the actors contributed to it and personal stories from friends, My friend's father, Patty Augers, her father and I used to play softball together. He's 94 now, and he has dementia. And he doesn't, he'll see you and he'll remember you, but he doesn't remember if you were there last week or last month. But whenever we talk about the Yankees, he goes right back to when he was 5 years old. He knows all the batting averages, and eventually he knows us. Why substitute old movies for our play instead of baseball? So it's things like that throughout the 2 years that added to it. Yeah, and I take full credit for all the things the actors added.
Anything good in it, we're just throw your way.
Yeah, that's right. That's all me.
His name, the only one on it.
Yeah, the only one on it.
In terms of the casting and bringing aboard various folks, Patty, can you talk a little bit about how you came to the project and what it was like getting into the role?
Very strangely, actually. It's been quite a journey, with anyway. It began with Jody and you and a reading in New York.
Yeah, Jody Long and
Long.
I did a reading, and we worked on it at the Durango Play Festival, which Wendy Malick and I started. And then we were going to do it in Ellenville with Amanda Plummer. But right before we opened, she had a family problem. And Patty very bravely came in there and went on with 2 days rehearsal with script in hand.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
like this. I learned a fancy way to read though. Anyway.
And we got rave reviews. So, and then Jody Long did it with me in the Berkshires, and we got rave reviews from Boston. So we decided to try it here.
In terms of going through those drafts, did you feel like you were sharpening up what you'd set out to do, just maybe slightly better witticism, slightly better anecdote, or did you feel like you were having to shape the direction of the characters? Did it feel like it? I guess did it feel like it substantially changed or just polished?
The characters were there, right?
Yeah.
But the polish was more in the humor, don't you
Right.
think?
And in the rhythm of the playing and
Yeah.
how to illuminate, certain parts of their personality. And sometimes the change in words were beneficial.
Yeah. And to try to capture that old movie style screwball comedy dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very emotional play about people with dementia, but it's funny. There were two comedy writers who now have dementia.
And
so we write comedy.
And I almost get a sense that they actually look on the bright side in a funny way in their moments. And with that, it brings levity to the piece.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh my God, this is, so, and that's fun for us because it's like life,
And there are no other family members in the play. It's not about how the family deals with it. It's about them.
Us.
It's really saying the creative spirit never dies.
Yeah.
And kind of using it to make it through this latest challenge.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that was their connection anyway.
Yeah,
right?
that was their connection in another life.
Yeah, but we don't know what.
Yeah, don't give it all away.
All right.
You gotta
I know. We're going to put the link. Folks can get down there and see it. It sounds absolutely fantastic. In terms, was Eric Krebs always the director through the Ellenville through all of it, or did that ever?
No, James Glossaman and James Frangiano from the Berkshire Great Barrington Public Theater, and now Eric came in. And each time it's changed different emphasis on what we, but the spirit of it hasn't changed.
No.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I'm sure Patty's performance is different than Amanda Plummer's would have been. I wasn't sure how much the directing might affect the tone as well.
Well, each actor brings
a whole different bag of beans.
Yeah. Well, that's the advantage of being an actor who writes instead of a writer who writes. I really look forward to what different people bring in.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's different with the same actor. We change up.
In July, I'm going to be we'll both be able to sit and hear Joe Montana and Gene Smart do a reading of it for a charity event. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah,
that'll be a blast.
Oh yeah, and they're going to bring in something totally different.
That's wild.
Good friends of ours, and they're such good actors.
And the benefit of doing it like love letters.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's no sweat for any.
You'll have to show them the reading trick.
Turning the pages.
I feel like Richard's joining us. I feel like when I often see, I guess, more experimental things, or I think of stage theater as having the expectation or the capability to be more experimental, to have characters named man and woman, or to wait for Godot. These things that I wouldn't normally see down at the Cinemark on a Saturday.
You're right with him.
You're with me. I think the only hope for the theater is we have to lean more to the absurd. We can't just keep doing what they can see on TV. They got 6 million channels. You can't compete with Broadway. That's all special effects and a lot of bubblegum shows. But what we can take advantage of is the Ionesco, the Beckett's, the Pirandellos. And the advantage we have today over those great writers is they wrote in a time when plays were 3 hours long and every plot point was said 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
We've gone down to 90-minute play. I mean, our play has an intermission, but it only runs 90 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it does have an absurdist element to it. And I think hopefully the younger people will like that because it's not something you can see on television. It's not something that costs $200 a ticket. It's just in the writing of the words.
And for them, with their, being used to things moving quick,
Right.
it's a shorter time committed in a theater, It's good.
I studied art and painting in college, and one of the big questions that would always get asked is what happens to painting after the advent of the camera? Does photography make painting moot? And no, it doesn't. Abstract art happens.
Right.
Painting gets freed of the shackle of having to be the most realistic thing, and can be whatever. And I think you're right. I think as movies reach this CG point of showing you whatever, and it's seeming very real, stage theater has this ability to be absurd and abstract and strip things down, and you're going to see it in a collective audience, and there's a different vibe to that.
We're on the same page with you on that.
I could be talking to him.
Yeah.
I'm listening to you and I'm thinking,
as actors, does that feel, does it feel like freer or different, or a different muscle, or does it
It's
do you
different.
prefer stage?
Oh, I do, yes.
I started really that way. At
Yeah.
6, I was 6. And so it's sort of like when you go back to it, it's like going home. There's something about, the water you drink that tastes more right wherever you're from. And it's like that. And I always get cold before because they air condition so I if it's cold or I'm nervous. I can't tell the difference. But it does
feel like going home.
Yeah, it does feel like going home.
You got to remember the bad seed before she did the movie. She was doing the play.
Yeah.
And rehearsing a nighttime live television show.
Yeah.
So she would rehearse all day, get in a cab, go do the play. And on Friday nights, they would hold a curtain until the live television show finished, get in a cab, get dressed, and run on stage. And it was totally back then.
In terms of you had to know that role was huge. I mean, was huge and was going to have some staying power then. But you've just recently participated in The Bad Seed's still going. Just recently redone.
I know. Rob Lowe, the first one. And go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to ask: is it both of you have been in classic roles? Is that ever something that you have a sense of in the moment? Do you ever know which ones are going to stick around and be asked about later? Dan, I'm sure you get asked about Wonder Years even now.
Well, I'll
is it
give
just
you
the next role for you when you take it at the time?
Ask me what my favorite role is.
What was your favorite role?
The next one.
Good
I think that gets to the core of it. I've been told by so many actors that you just audition and then you walk out. You just got to toss it over your shoulder and you can't think about it. You never know. And so
you don't want to rely on things in the past in order to create a new character. Then you start falling into, kind of stagey type emotions and, different caricature expressions. And, you rather just approach the role as, of course, you got that memory bank, you're a pro, you know what tools to pull out to make the right cabinet. But you like to approach each character with its own dimensions.
Yep.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to be a
it's
greatest hit of your own nervous tics or something. Yeah.
Also, the like with a career, say in films sometimes, but a lot of the actors play characters, but oftentimes, say in television, you'll see yourself being looked at through a very narrow lens, and so whoever they think you are for that role, you sometimes have it many times if you're lucky. But
we both played a lot of villains after.
Good people.
Yeah, The Bad Seed and before the Wonder Years, and then after the Wonder Years, I was always America's dad or a cop.
Yeah,
it took a while to get back to villains, but it paid the rent while I did theater.
Well, there's a huge portion of the world that's just going to think of you as Lombardi now.
New York for sure.
It's nice, huh?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
But I was lucky in both cases. I have Patty now, and I had Judith Light and Lombardi, and it makes things easier.
Well,
So-
I wouldn't say easier.
Well,
So-
it makes it interesting.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
You have a performance this evening. Can you talk a little bit about what does your prep look like, trying to put the world away and get ready for that? Is it different than it was when you were starting out your careers? Do you go through the same butterflies process now?
I do. He doesn't have any.
I don't. I never did.
It's so annoying.
Yeah,
That's it.
kind of. Yeah, it bothers people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Scylla Lopez used to hit me before the show. Will you get nervous?
But you said once you've been, in Vietnam.
Oh well, I'm a veteran, so, and I played sports, so for me, I'm more anxious about getting out there. But to answer your question, we do take more naps. Today's been a long day. I had to do a reading at a theater. We're doing this now. We have to go to the theater and do a couple of scenes for commercials. So
Put on act 1 and 2.
yeah, we're definitely going to need a drink afterwards.
Yeah.
After today.
That'll be nice.
And the show's running 6 shows a week for the rest of the month at Theater 555.
Yeah.
In terms of the space, does this feel different than where you're doing it at Ellenville?
No, it's remarkably similar. Ellenville was about 180 seats.
Yeah.
This theater's 175.
Okay.
The dimensions of the stage are the same.
Yeah.
And I don't know,
Yeah.
if we don't make it, it's not because of the theater. Let me
No.
tell you that we're not going to cop out on that excuse.
Also,
I've been in plays where we were in the wrong theater. They were too small for the space or
Yeah.
something. But this,
Mhm.
no,
feels right.
it feels right. Yeah.
And the set is
Yeah, from
wasn't it?
Ellenville.
Yeah. So it feels familiar.
Yeah.
The bench feels a little lower than the
That-
it did.
It's because it's harder to get up. The older we get, the harder,
I know you'd said earlier, your favorite role is the next one. In terms of getting to stretch or embody an emotion that felt really good or that felt really appropriate at the time, have either of you had a favorite role in your career that you thought maybe not the biggest role that everybody saw, but one that was incredibly satisfying for you to get to play?
Oh,
Yeah,
boy.
I've had a couple.
ahead,
Bill
you go.
Master Simone's a stone carver, and of course doing Lombardi on Broadway with Judith. That was, and I did Other People's Money with Priscilla Lopez. That was fun. And interesting characters. Lombardi was a very interesting character. Most people didn't realize he taught physics, chemistry, and Latin.
Whoa.
And he died at 57 years old. He was a
God.
workaholic, and he was just obsessed with being the best.
Hmm.
And that you'd have a bad day or you have the flu and you show up at the theater and you feel, well, I can pace myself through this one. Boy, you'd feel that foot come from the clouds going, get your ass out there, give it everything. You just couldn't lay back. So roles affect you that way.
I think I have an answer too
Go ahead.
but I mean, I could go back in time, but the biggest fun that I had,
Mm.
and I thought it was my last hurrah, like the bookend, in New York.
Mhm.
It was at
Mornings at 7.
yeah, mornings at 7 wasn't that long ago, like a year and 3/4 or whatever. And it was so joyful to be doing that and be received
Again, yeah.
again. And they made a big deal of the fact that it had been 60 something years between Bad Seed in New York and
She did a lot of theater in between, but
Oh, yeah.
not in New York.
but not in New
Yeah.
York. So, and it was at the theater at St. Clements.
Yeah.
And anyway, that
Yeah.
was very enjoyable.
Really
Yeah.
feel that homecoming.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Charles Durning was my mentor. And he told me when we first met that if I ever went a year without doing a play, he'd never speak to me again, because he never went a year without doing a play. And so I've never gone a year, even during COVID, without doing a play. So I have over 60 plays. So to pick one over another, you know, depends on what you're talking. Are you talking about audience response, Lombardi? I mean, they said we wouldn't make 6 weeks. We were there 11 months.
Wow.
You know, you're talking about depth of character. I really felt a connection to my grandparents and my grandfather doing Bill Master Simone's A Stone Carver.
Okay.
You know, very Italian, very thing. And I love doing this play because, you know, I wrote it and it's fun and we can experiment if we want to change something.
Yeah.
You know,
so you know the writer.
Let's try to go this way.
So, it's also helpful in case you go up because he can feed you the line, you know.
Right. He ought to know.
You ought to know.
Thank you both so much. I'm sure the folks tonight are going to get the just show of their lives. Very
I hope
envious.
they come.
I hope you come and stay after. Go out.
Unfortunately, I'm not able to. I'm in Central Texas, so a little bit of a trip.
What,
I'm in
Texas?
Austin.
Okay.
The good part.
The good part, the best part of Texas. Yeah.
A grandson that just moved to Porter's right across from King's something.
Kingsland,
Anyway,
perhaps.
I think- Anyway.
There's a Kingsland right
if
near
you
here. That's
get here
beautiful.
before the end of June, come and let us know, and we'll all go after it. I'd like to hear what you think.
Hopefully I can make it out. I'll let y'all know if I do. Thank you so much for your time today.
Oh,
Great.
it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Really was.
Bye-bye.
Have a wonderful night.
You too.
TV Dudes is an independently run podcast out of Austin, Texas. We are exclusively listener supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/TVDudes.
You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TV Dudes. All the music for our show is done by our friend and original TV dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith.
To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com. I'm Randy Lander.
I'm Les Weiler.
And I'm Kyle Scott.
Thanks for listening.